Hello, this is Matthew, and I want to show you how a little application called SwitchResX on the Mac can really simplify your screencasting needs. There may be, and there probably is, something similar on the Windows, but I don't know what the name would be. So you'd have to look around for it. Now, here I am on my iMac. It's a 27-inch iMac. It's not Retina, so it's not the latest kind and the coolest kind, but it still has a big screen. So what you'll notice if you look at it is you look on the left and you look on the right, there's a lot of white space. Now, if you're using a laptop, typically there's not as much white space. It depends. If you have a newer computer with really high resolution, maybe there is if you do it full screen. So let me just show you. Typically when I'm on this particular computer, if I'm using a browser, I use it half the page. Like here we go. So there. So I don't have as much white space, and you can see stuff off to the right, and that's just how I use it. Even this little tab, the table of contents tab, right? If I do this full screen, you see it's just way over there. Okay, so that's just a personal thing, and this is a nice thing about having a big screen. I probably look at this full screen if I'm on a laptop. Okay. So when you're shooting a screencast, though, what I like to do, and this is not true for everyone, but I like to shoot at the size that I want to make the final video. So for me, I really have two choices, which they're both high def choices. One is 1920 pixels by 1080, often referred to as 1080 HD. The other is 1280 by 720 pixels, often referred to as 720 HD. And which one I choose really depends on the software I'm using. So for example, if I'm using on-one photo editing, which is really complicated and has a lot of stuff to look at and to show, I use the 1080 option because I typically, if I use 720 option, I'm not getting all that detail. But as an example with this web page, now if I'm going to shoot a screencast, I don't want to just shoot half the page. So because it's not going to end up being in a 16:9 ratio, that high def ratio. So now I'm going to make this full screen. And my app, SwitchResX, I think it costs $14. So I know it's an extra expense and many of you won't want it, but some of you will really want it because it's a huge just convenience saver. So it sits in my menu bar at the top, and you can set up presets. So I'm going to go to SwitchResX preferences. I'm not going to show you how to do a preset. It's easy enough if it's of interest to you. Here's my display sets, and I'm going to go into standard, and here's what my resolution is, 2560 by 1440. When I get a new iMac, the resolution will be a lot higher, but that's what it is. Okay, so once you've set it up, and you can set up these presets, so I'm going to change it. All I have to do if I want to shoot it at 1080 is change it. Boom. And now you can see the difference. Now I'm going to make this take up the full screen, and this is what it would look like. Now I still have a lot of white space off to the left and to the right, and depending on what I want to show, let's say I want to make a movie about how to use this drop zone, maybe that would be okay. It really all depends. I'm going to go back. But I think probably I wouldn't want as much white space. So in this case, I would probably shoot it at 720 HD. Right? You see, now I'm refit it again, and you see how it takes up much more of the space. Now I could do things too, like hide things to view. I could just say hide favorite bars and all of that. I'm not going to do that in this case. But this, now I have white space to the left and right, and everything's a lot bigger. And so probably for a screencast, I would shoot it at 720 just because it's filling up the space better, and it's in that wonderful 16:9 ratio I want. But that's a personal choice. But the key is to keep it in 16:9. And my screen naturally is not 16:9, it's 16:10. So when I go into ScreenFlow or Camtasia or something else, it really doesn't matter what I'm using. If I ask it to shoot the full screen, it's going to capture it as a 16:9 ratio. It's a really nice, easy solution. So I'm going to go back to 1080. And then I'm going to go back to what is the actual view, what I'm calling standard. There we go. Big differences. I'll go back in again. So 1080 looks a little different. And 720. There we go. So that's using SwitchResX, about $14. There is probably something very similar that accomplishes the same end game on Windows. It's specialty software, but for me, it just saves me a lot of time in trying to remember how to cut things and edit things. So it's perfectly one of these sizes in ScreenFlow or something else. I hope this helps. Take care.